So this was entered in as the URL that a user went to, and here's the address or the email that was used to log in, and here's the password that was used.
I think that's really important to highlight, right? You do this stuff day in, day out, helping organizations from governments to large banks, etc., with threat hunting, looking for malware, looking for problems on their networks, correct?
Yeah, and I primarily focus on the performance side when something isn't working properly, if it's broken or if it's slow. But a byproduct of that has been also having access to the golden data set, that is the packet. So doing exercises like this, David, have helped me to refine that part of threat hunting at the packet level. I don't know exactly what is exchanged here with application data, but I do know the client goes out, sends 399 bytes out, gets 433 back, and then right after that happens, this is where some interesting stuff really goes down. So this is where we go into the things that we can actually see on the wire.
So yeah, even before you go to the FTP stuff, which looks really weird, you already got warning, sirens going off that there's some weird traffic.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's also why, for me, I keep Virustotal nearby to just help me validate what I think is weird.
Hey everyone, it's David Bombal back with the amazing Chris Greer. Chris, it's been way too long. Great to have you back on the channel.
I know, David, it has been too long. Thank you for having me back. I really appreciate it.
So for everyone who's watching, I've got some fantastic news. Chris has been sharing some really cool stuff with me. Lips are closed.
My lips are sealed. My lips are sealed. Bangles. All right. Great.
Can't share it at the moment, but look forward to some amazing stuff coming in 2025. Chris and I are also going to ramp up the content that we're creating with regards to Wireshark. So put your comments below, the kind of stuff that you want to see. Chris is the person I always talk to when I want to know about packet analysis and Wireshark. He's the expert that I trust personally with my packet captures, but he also consults to a lot of businesses, very experienced, 20 years of experience or more. Chris, we're getting old, but you've been doing this since the ethereal days. You're telling me off camera that you were 19 when you started learning this stuff many, many years ago. But Chris, that's enough talking. Really cool demonstration that I believe you've got for us today. Something about a snake keylogger or something?
Yeah, David. So part of what I like to do if I'm sitting and I want to learn more about something that I don't have a lot of experience with is I'll stop by malware-analysis.net. Very awesome guy named Brad. He has a site where he captures malware that's presently in the wild. And he is able to execute it in a lab environment, and he's able to set up different capture points and collect how it behaves. And then he takes those captures and then presents them to the world and lets us learn more about how, on the packet level, how some of this malware behaves. So link in this description down below, malware-analysis.net. You're actually going to be sent directly to the packet capture that I will be demonstrating to you in this video.
I think it's really cool, this demonstration, from the point of view that we're not looking at like malware analysis, like some other examples that I've done with other experts where they're showing, the malware on the computer. You're actually looking at it from the wire point of view, which is very cool.
That's exactly it. Like, how does this thing actually behave? And what I take away from it is just principles of how this type of malware could look in an environment. And it causes me to set different filters or even refine my radar of what to look for when I'm threat hunting for my clients. So this isn't to say that this is exactly how you would see it if it was in the wild, but if you did see it in the wild, there are some principles that you could get by looking at it from a contained environment.
I think that's really important to highlight, right? You do this stuff day in, day out, helping organizations from governments to large banks, etc., with threat hunting, looking for malware, looking for problems on their networks, correct?
Yeah, and I primarily focus on the performance side when something isn't working properly, if it's broken or if it's slow. But a byproduct of that has been also having access to the golden data set, that is the packet, also looking through and seeing if there's some weird behavior. So doing exercises like this, David, have helped me to refine that part of threat hunting at the packet level. Looking at how things look, different examples of malware, different behaviors, and then applying that when I'm looking through my customers' traffic.
That's great, Chris. I'll take it away. Show us the demo, right? I'm looking forward to this.
All right, let's do this. So, okay, David, just to kick this off, here we're at malware-analysis.net. Again, thanks, Brad. And I am looking at the packet capture that he took on September 17th, 2024, on a Tuesday, snake keylogger. And this was the actual infection, but it had an FTP exfil component, which is what we're going to focus on. So for the viewing audience, if you come down here to this file that's in the middle, exfil.pcap.zip, go ahead and pull that down. If you want to actually analyze the malware itself, he actually includes that as well down here, but we're going to focus on how it looked on the wire itself. Now, there's also a password that you're going to need, which he tells you about here, and we'll also link that in the description, or we'll show that in the description down below so you can get quick access to it. All right, so here's the packets, and if I just look up here, you can see the name, Snake Keylogger Infection FTP exfil.pcap. Okay, so what do I do when I first get started with a packet capture like this is I just like to breeze through and look through things that just jump out at me, David. And this is what I was talking about earlier when it comes to just refining that radar that's in my mind. That's what these exercises help me to do. What looks weird? Okay, so let's just scan through top to bottom. We're not going to go deep dive in any one hexadecimal value yet, but just an overview of what we're dealing with. I see that I've got 896 packets down here at the bottom. The very first thing that we do is a check IP dyndns.org. Okay, going to come back to that. A really free GeoIP. Interesting. Also, TLS version 1. Stowed away. Got a few gets. Okay, get okay. We'll come back to this. Several different HTTP, just standard TCP port 80 gets. There's some interesting stuff I'm going to come back to. Keep
like
scrolling.
Weird stuff. Is that what you're saying is interesting, right?
Yeah, it's just stuff that my brain is calling out right now. Now, why would HTTP be weird? Well, because so much today is over HTTPS.
Yeah.
So much of what we do is secured, it's encrypted as it should be. So something that's not encrypted, it's just something that my brain is filing away. API.telegram.org. Okay, we've got a secure connection. I'm going to come back to that. FTP Life Changers Care. Okay, you see some DNS. In fact, I'm going to come up here. Let's set our first filter people, packet people in the house. We're going to set our filter for DNS. And that's just going to let me just take a breeze through the different services that I'm trying to resolve for IPs. So let's see, we can just go through. Okay. So there's our first scan. So sometimes people ask me, where do you start, Chris? I just do a real quick overview and see what starts to jump out at me. Gonna remove filter. Gonna come up here now. Gonna go to statistics, conversations. Statistics, conversations. Gonna go ahead and bring this in. Another thing that I like to do just from the jump, from the top level, is I like to see what types of conversations do I have going, both from an IP perspective and from a TCP connections perspective. So if I come over here to the TCP tab on the conversations view, I can see that I've got a couple of secure connections. I've got some open port 80 traffic. I've got some port 21. There's my FTP, and some high numbered, it looks like high numbered services that we'll go ahead and take a look at and see what those are actually doing. Okay. So there's my overview. I already have stored away a bunch of stuff that I want to dig into. So we're going to take those one at a time. The first one, very beginning, checkip.dyndns.org. Okay, so I first go and knock on the door of my DNS server, and I'm looking up check IP. Okay, I get this check IP back. I get as DNS should. I ask for that A record, and if I come down here into answers, it says, hey, Chris, I got a bunch of resolutions for you. So here's all these IPs, and you can, usually I just grab the first one, and that's where I go and look for my very next conversation. I fire off a TCP port 80 SYN at that server. Now, it's not always going to be port 80. Depends on what application is trying to kick off right now. So I can see that this is just a web conversation going out to that server. Right now, though, if this was just a regular environment, David, I always put myself in the chair of someone that's just sitting in an enterprise network. And let's just say that they saw that DNS traffic go out. My first question here would be like, okay, who is trying to check their IP? Because a check IP service, let me ask you, David, I mean, do you think it would be normal for just any standard user that's non-technical, they're just doing their day-to-day job for a business, would it be normal for them to go out and check what their external IP address is?
No, and applications normally don't do that.
Yeah. So right there, that's kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
That's an unusual thing. But let's see if that's actually what happened. So I'm going to come down here, and everybody can join me because you did open up the packets, didn't you? You're following along. All right, packet 3. There's my TCP handshake. I come down to the get, establishes that connection, and now I'm actually using it. And I'm going to actually right click, and this is where we can have some fun with Wireshark. This is a screen a lot of people know and love. Follow. You can do HTTP stream or TCP stream. Honestly, it's going to do the same thing. I'll just pick TCP out of habit. Going to bring this in. And now I get this stream data, which is basically a representation of what was inside the packet payload in this TCP stream. So here I can see my get, user agent. Here's the host that I'm going and talking to. Here's what I'm trying to do with that connection. Am I closing it or am I keeping it alive? Client side is saying keep alive. Now red is client. What the client is sending out to the server. What the server sends back is blue. If you ever forget that, look right down here on the lower left. 2 client packets, server packets, clients in red, servers in blue. Server responds and says, current IP check, current IP address. Here you go, Chris. There's your external IP as I see it. So this server is kicking back what I look like on the outside. Now back to you, David. Does that look like something that a normal, everyday user should care about?
No, you think you know where you are. I know as technical people do that a lot. We might check things, but I wouldn't think a normal user would even know what that is.
Yeah, good call. I mean, if I saw that this user, if I go back to this user, this 10.9.17.101, if I look that up and, oh, that's David Bombal. Oh, well, yeah, okay, I get it. He's doing some fun little thing. Yeah, he's firing up a utility. That guy, he's always checking his external address. No big deal. But if it was somebody that usually wouldn't be doing that, that's where my radar kind of goes up. Now, why would this person need to know what they look like on the outside? Now, many times this IP is going to come into play later. This is where if you're going to go out and talk to an external station or some other listener out there, maybe some C2 traffic to somebody that's waiting, this is where you can alert, hey, this is where I'm coming from. This is what I will look like on the outside when I leave this network. Because this 10 network won't show up out there in the world. It's a non-routed range, but this guy right here is a legit external address, right? So that's weird. Now I'm going to go ahead and come up here. I'm just going to remove that filter, come back to my conversations. So how are we doing so far?
This is great. I mean, you've already highlighted like why is it checking its IP address? HTTP seems weird in today's world as well.
Yeah, exactly. Both of those two things. Putting on my threat hunting hat, I just had 2 little alarms fire off. So as I keep going, reallyfreegyp.org. Okay, so we go and we knock on that door. We hit a response that came back. Now, while I'm at it, something else I'm going to draw to your attention is Virustotal. So this is something I always keep up on a browser nearby. And one reason is I like to search URLs and also IPs to just do a high-level radar scan just to see, or not a scan, just to look up what type of service am I going to? Is this something that other systems know about, and is it malicious? So let's just do that. Really free GRIP, really free. Okay, really free GRP. So from a high level, no real alarms just yet. Okay, check over to community. Don't see anything just yet from anybody major saying that this is an issue. So that's just good for me to tuck away. All right. So, but then I do this client hello to it. And what I don't like about this is using TLS version 1. So if I come down here, I did this connection, I complete the connection. And if I come down to TLS, not to get super duper crazy far in the weeds, but if I look at the TLS client hello coming from that client, it's got the record level version is TLS 1.0, and the actual client hello handshake version is TLS 1.0 as well. And I don't have anything down here. There's no extensions down here to talk about any other version. So if this version goes up to TLS 1.2, 1.1, 1.0, this typically the record version and the version within the client hello tells me the bottom version that I'll support and the most recent version that I'll support. So right here, it's just saying 1.0. So,
and that's weird, right?
Yeah, that's weird these days, right? Because TLS 1.0, 1.1, we've really moved forward from. Right now, we're in the world of TLS 1.2, 1.3. So to have 1.1 still lingering around would be a radar thing for me. Like what's still using a pretty dated version of TLS? Okay, so I go and I just knock on that door. Now, this is where encryption takes over, right? So I do my client hello, server hello, assert comes back. If I really want to, I can start digging and just take a look at what it includes. Global sign root, okay, Google Trust Services. Okay, so it looks like just an overall okay conversation, but it's using that old version. And again, I would wonder, what is it on this system that is calling an old TLS version? That's going to be an interesting thing for me to start to dig at. Moving forward, and I'm just calling out stuff as I see it here. Moving forward here, how about this one? The next conversation that I have. So I'm going to DNS api.telegram.org and I get an IP back.
That looks weird.
Yeah. So
why are you going to Telegram?
Yeah, right. So API Telegram. Let's actually do that here. I'm in Virustotal, so let's actually, we're going to punch that in. And here's we got some security vendors flagging this as malicious, suspicious, phishing. And from the community, this is where I can start to get an idea of what types of malware this has been an IOC of, and just see malicious Google updater, can stealer, Tor exit nodes. So so that domain has been seen before and has some risks associated to it. So that's something that, again, that's another red flag for me. So I can see that this client is touching base in a couple of different ways. It's going and having these conversations. I don't know exactly because I don't have a way of decrypting this at this moment. I don't know exactly what is exchanged here with application data, but I do know the client goes out, sends 399 bytes out, gets 433 back. And then right after that happens, this is where some interesting stuff really goes down. So this is where we go into the things that we can actually see on the wire. Let's go to packet 109.
I'll just say something before you do that, Chris. Sorry.
You bet.
If you were doing this in the real world, would you be flagging to the client, like, why are you sending stuff to Telegram? Why are you sending it to this weird domain? Why are you using these weird protocols or old protocols?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So for me, absolutely, this would just be radar triggering, right? Not necessarily that it's an absolute problem yet, but hey, client, what are we doing here? What is this system doing? What do we expect it to do? Now, hopefully, here's my hope, David, that they already have an IDS IPS system that's all over this. That's the goal, right? That they have already been, or there are alerts, maybe alerts that have been overlooked because of alert palooza. Sometimes I run into that with my clients, like, hey, this is kind of strange looking. And they go, oh, we didn't know that alert really was related to this. So if anything, it's giving more validity to an alert that they didn't fully realize was associated to an infection like this.
So yeah, even before you go to the FTP stuff, which looks really weird, you already got warning, sirens going off that there's some weird traffic.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's also why, for me, I keep Virustotal nearby to just help me validate what I think is weird, right? Like right here, I mean, this is just calling it out. Activity related to snake keylogger.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, boom, there we go, right? And that validates that this packet capture did in fact capture some IOCs from snake keylogger. And if you're interested, let's go ahead and link this down below as well, David. I went ahead and just did a quick search for snake keylogger, just an overview of what it is. And if we look right here, so it's at least this version of it that they're writing up here. Once executed on the victim's computer, it has the ability to steal sensitive data. It is basically a phishing campaign in the wild, malicious Excel document attached to a phishing email. They performed a deep analysis. This is a very interesting read if you really want to go into the guts of how it actually did its remote code execution through that Excel file. So if that's your jam, go at it. But I am a packet person, so going to go back to what the actual traffic was that it executed on the wire.
I think it's great though, because in the real world, we need people like you. And then we also need the malware reverse engineering type people.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Keep in mind, I'm looking at this from the perspective of what actually happened on the wire. What did it do? And then pulling that back into the system along with someone like you just mentioned from a SOC team that can further do some digging within the system itself. Okay. So back to our packets. We ready to go to FTP now?
Yeah.
All right. So I can see about 10 seconds after it did that last conversation to telegram.org. Come here 10 seconds later, FTP lifechangerscare.com. So we get an address back. So we can just see on our answers. If I just look here, here's our IP address. So 216.252. And we actually go and do a TCP port 21 conversation to it, and that's our standard port for FTP traffic, or FTP control traffic. So we go and we talk to that server. And FTP, being open, it also allows us to see a username and password, right? So we can still see that over FTP in clear text. So the username, chucks@lifechangerscare.com, and the password is this nice little password right here. Okay, so, and can I just tangent just for a quick second, David?
Sure.
In the past, hey, look, the listening audience told us they like tangents. So you asked for it. Where my brain thinks of it, I just share it with you. And that's where, I mean, we don't want to get too excited, super excited about open usernames and passwords. Sometimes I see real flashy videos. Oh, capture usernames and passwords. Oh, no, Wire with Wireshark. So much is encrypted these days that a lot of times you're just not going to see this in open wire. But today, sometimes malware like this can be lazy, and it does it anyway. So if I did ever see usernames, password on the open wire, that is actually something I would first think of. Like, typical applications don't do that anymore and haven't for years. So what is doing this? Coming back to that being open.
I think it's really important that you go on these tangents about real world versus like the theory, right? Because you're seeing this all the time. So it's great to get your, real world expertise on this.
Thanks, David. And for those that are watching, definitely comment below. Let us know what you think, and happy to share what comes to my brain. Or David can choose to cut it out. That's his call.
Cut!
Okay, coming down here. So we did that first check-in with FTP, and FTP is doing something that's pretty standard here. If I come down to this response, so basically the client does a passive request to the server. So basically the client says, hey, we want to do some interaction, but over a passive FTP instead of active FTP. So, hey, server, go ahead and hit me back and use a port number that I'm going to send you. That's what the server sent that back to me. So the client says, hey, server, I want to go passive. Server comes back, says, sure, here's my IP address and here's a port number that I want you to hit me back on, not port 21. And that's why this can be interesting to analyze, because notice now that the client switches to that port number that was sent. Now, if you look in Wireshark, if you look at packet 132, it's actually, here's my response. I'm going to come down to, you see that entering passive mode right here?
Yeah.
So the way these numbers work out, here's the actual octets of the address. And then this one down here, this 220, 227, it actually translates into this port number. So the server says, hit me back on 56347. So the client says, okay, 56347. That's the port that you indicated. I'm just going to right click that port and just set a quick filter. Now notice I'm not doing follow stream yet. I'm just going to conversation filter TCP. That's a whopping 9 packets. And my TCP length here just shows me that there's only one packet that actually has some payload in it. For the listening audience, you might on Wireshark have lengths, and that's the full packet length. That includes the TCP, IP, and Ethernet headers. So you might have a different number there. The way that I got this is if I go down to TCP, just going to expand TCP, and you can come down here to TCP segment length. You see that number? Right click that guy, add it as a column, or you can just drag that number. I'm on packet 140, drag and drop, and you can just drop it upstairs. Now I already have that, so I'm just going to take it and I'm going to remove it. Okay. And for the super Wireshark nerds among us, good for you, because Wireshark's pretty awesome to be a nerd about. If you right click up here and just go to edit column, that's where you can change the name of you can title the column differently. And I just shortened it to TCP length. It shows TCP length, and everyone is happy in the world. Okay. SYN-ACK, we connect. 133 milliseconds of network round trip time. A few other things that I could see in there, but I'm interested. Client to server, we send out 1140 bytes via this passive FTP port. All right, let's actually see what that is. I'm going to right click that, and just to put it on one page, follow TCP stream. So this is all from the client. Okay. So hopefully the viewers can see this okay. We just zoomed in. Now this is from client to server. We're sending this out. All right. So VIP recovery, PC name. Hey, Mr. Server, here's my PC name. Here's the date and time. Here's my external IP address. Here's where that came back into the mix. Here's where I'm from. This is my GeoIP stuff. That's why we hit GeoIP up above. We actually went out and talked to a GeoIP server about what our external address was. Now we're starting to put together the pieces of the previous conversation, right? We first got our external IP, Then we looked up its GeoIP information, South Carolina, time zone, latitude, longitude. Hey, I am just right here. Here's all my stuff about me. And this is also what I'm sending out to that device. Here's my VIP recovery. So recovered from Outlook. So this was entered in as the URL that a user went to. And here's the address or the email that was used to log in. And here's the password that was used. How about recovered from this Edge browser? Here's the host that it went to. Here's the username. Here's the password. Edge Chromium. We have a few other usernames and passwords. Silly site. And username, password. So this was all collected off that machine and sent out to that listener over FTP. Now, this isn't where it stops. There's a couple ways I can do this. I'm actually just going to show you this here, and then I'm going to reverse and show you a longer way to do it. But if you come over here to stream, you see I'm on stream 4?
Yeah.
Every TCP conversation within Wireshark gets a stream number. And to keep it simple, basically a TCP conversation is the same as a 4-tuple. So 2 IP addresses, 2 port numbers. There's a couple other factors that go into it with timing, but let's just keep it at that for now. So whenever I see 2 different IPs, 2 different ports, that gets an identity as a TCP stream between those 2. If any of those change, if we change port numbers, if we change IP addresses, well, that's a different TCP stream, and it's going to get a different TCP stream number. Well, once I'm here and I'm looking at the stream data, I can jump to a different stream by just staying right here. I can come down here to stream 4. I want to go to stream 5. So rather than shutting this down, going and finding the conversation for stream 5, right click, follow TCP stream, just to come right back here, you can just jump through your TCP streams without ever leaving this screen. Kind of a little trick for the good people. All right, so see what else we found. So this time, instead of passwords, we were looking for cookies. So in this case, what the malware was able to do was actually go and extract cookies out of a browser, or it's also possible that it was able to see them entered in real time. Recovered from shows us where it was recovered from, what the host is, when it expires, what the value is. So all of these cookies, so once we get all these cookies, now what we would be able to do is assume the identity, hopefully, of that user interacting with these different systems, and hopefully do like a session resumption because we have that cookie. Really depends on what protections are in place on that server, but we get the idea. We stole a bunch of cookies off of this client. Okay, so that was, I'm just going to come back to my packets and pause for a minute. David, what do you think so far?
That's great. I mean, it's nice to see this stuff on the wire rather than trying to reverse engineer it.
Yeah, exactly. And again, these are all things for everybody out there to start thinking about. Like, okay, this is a lab environment, but you probably would think about it a little bit differently if you're just capturing traffic off of your local connection and you start to see your local machine without your knowledge going and doing a bunch of external IP checks.
Yep.
Now you're going to go, whoa, why is my machine wondering what it looks like on the outside? That's weird.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay, so this was all sent out. So exfiltrated, if you will, I'll use that word, to that listener. Oh man, David, you know that I want to dig into this stuff, but this is the wrong time to do it. Zero windows, window full. Tell you what, does everybody, maybe on a future video, do you want to use this pcap and go into this stuff? Window full, what does this mean? Why do I care? When does it matter? I'll just put that out to the audience and see if you guys are interested. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I think if everyone could just comment below the kind of stuff that you want Chris to cover, like perhaps like a series on weird and wonderful Wireshark stuff, right?
WWW. I like it. I think we just we just came that up on Wednesday. I like it. Quad W. Okay, good. So I'm just going to back this off now. So that second conversation pulled. So the first one was passwords. The next one was cookies. So I'm just going to scan through this just to see, do I see anything else going on? Well, as expected, at the end, it just wraps up its conversations, does some fins. The file was successfully transferred. And really, that's it. That's what we were able to capture off of that malware. So let me back up and just reapproach this. Like, what did we learn? In 896 packets, we were able to see an infection as it played out. So first, we went and checked our external IP. Then we did this whole GeoIP thing. And then after about 10 seconds, we started to see this malware exfiltrate out those passwords and also cookies. Something that helped us as we were in the radar stage, just tuning that, when we went to Virustotal, we were to see several steps along the way. We also had some red flags there, especially with that API call. That was a strange one. Also, if you look up Life Changers Care, in fact, you know what? While I'm here, I'm just going to do that as well. It was FTP, just to zoom in here a little bit. FTP.Life Changers Care. They care, David.
They care about your data, yeah.
They definitely do.
Especially your passwords.
Yeah, exactly. So here we go. We had definitely some flags here on that one.
Yep.
If we jump over to community, I don't see any write-ups yet on it. But yeah, as we start digging through, we'll maybe we'll be able to help the community with a post about what it is.
Don't go to this website.
Yeah, let's just stay away from there. So good. So that was a quick walkthrough.
That's great.
Any other thoughts that come up right now about that, David, or questions you have?
Yeah, I think we must, just for everyone, once again, comment below. Weird and wonderful Wireshark Wednesdays might be sort of a series of videos that I think Chris and I should create. But please let us know in the comments the kind of stuff that you want to see. Chris has so much experience, and you can shortcut your learning by just, watching him do this and learn from his tips and tricks. Chris, you've also got a course in Udemy that's recently been updated, right?
I do. So if you head out to Udemy, you'll see the video that David and I partnered to create. And really, it gets you from zero to hero with Wireshark. So all the things that you just saw me do, setting filters, setting coloring rules, creating profiles, all of those things are things that I cover. Really, David and I have a combined goal. We want to make packet analysis more accessible to more people.
Yeah.
To take that fear factor out and to make it just less scary. I don't forget how it felt when I first looked at a packet trace and there was so much going on in there. And I thought, I'm never going to learn this. It's so much. Like, how can anybody know what's actually happening? But literally, bit by bit, byte by byte, sticking with it and learning some fundamentals, some things that apply across any domain, regardless of IT silo, regardless of what type of protocol or application I'm analyzing. There are fundamentals you can learn which make that much easier. So that's our goal. That's our goal with videos like these, also with different shorts that we post together, but also with that course on Udemy to give you that core skill set with Wireshark, because we think it's just so important.
So for everyone who's watching, I've put a discount code below. So if you use that, you'll get the course for a cheaper price. Hopefully that helps you. But again, Chris and I have got some exciting things coming. Expect a lot of Wireshark content on the channel. Let us know the kind of stuff that you want to see. Again, let's leverage Chris's knowledge to help you better analyze networks. Chris, as always, thanks.
Absolutely, David. Thanks for having me back.